And I think all of us are thinking of the massacre that took place yesterday, really only 26 hours ago in Sydney. But I think we also need to acknowledge that this country was founded on massacres by British colonialists. Tragically, what happened yesterday was certainly not an aberration. If you look at the history of this country from 1788 onwards, and we never want to see those kinds of massacres take place again, regardless of who the victims happen to be. And that's why we commit ourselves to a fight against all forms of racism, and that's very central to the mission of the Refugee Action Collective. Now, tonight we are going to hear from Anna and Co, who I'll introduce properly when they get to speak. We're going to hear from them about the experience of being refugees from Myanmar in the context of a military coup which took place at the beginning of February 2021. There was a democracy, there had been for some years, led by Aung San Suu Kyi. The military, the Tatmadaw, overthrew that in February. They faced enormous opposition on the streets, a general strike by workers, but eventually through sheer brute force, the military broke the back of that opposition, and many people from the main cities fled into the countryside to take part in armed resistance. And Myanmar is a country where there are a plethora of minority ethnic groups who have been fighting against the central government. And many of us here in RAC are probably most familiar with the plight of the Rohingya people, the Muslim peoples in the western part of Myanmar, but their plight is not the only one. And tonight we're going to hear about those, some of those stories from the heart of Myanmar. Before we hear from our two guests, and before I introduce them properly, we are going to watch a short documentary that's been made in Sydney. I say short, it's about 22 or 23 minutes. We'll watch that documentary and then we will hear from both our guest speakers, and there'll be plenty of time for questions and discussion. So if
the life I have given to be alive here is because of my friends. They told me, you're important and we need you.
Even with the restrictions that are imposed on people by the military junta, people still find ways to protest them, to get our country back on track.
The junta has been using media as propaganda. Music for me is like a language. Music is my gun.
My role in Myanmar was at the beginning as an academic and as someone who had many Burmese friends in Australia. So I sort of got caught up in the whole movement after the revolution of 1988. I met a lot of Burmese refugees who came out to Australia after that crackdown. Got very interested in the country, their story.
I've come to have a deep and abiding interest in Myanmar due to many years working on the Thai-Myanmar border. Refugees were streaming across the border because of the authoritarian practices of the leadership within.
Myanmar is wedged right between China and India, and that geographical fact is really important because so much of its history, so much of its culture, religion, economy, etc. is shaped by those two countries.
If you read any books about Myanmar, you will learn that it is a country of great beauty, incredible culture, and unbelievable potential. It was called the rice basket of Asia because it was so rich in resources, what could have been one of the richest countries in Asia.
For most of Myanmar's modern history, the country has been ruled by the military under varying ideological labels, sometimes socialism, sometimes state-driven capitalism. It was a very authoritarian, centralised government, which caused all sorts of problems for everyone in the country. My Burmese friends, who were exiled from the country, said, "Sean, help us out. Can you help us analyse the economy, analyse what the military is doing, their weaknesses, how they're vulnerable, all that sort of thing." Then the big moment for me came in 2016. Aung San Suu Kyi and the National League for Democracy won an election. She said to me, "Sean, you've been working with us all these years. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is and come over to Myanmar and help us out with our new government?" So I did that. I joined her team of economic reformers, really trying to drive through change.
At the time, there was a certain hope. There was a hope running through the country. The leaders of the country started to make noises about opening up the country, about releasing political prisoners, about allowing freedom of the press, about changing the Constitution to allow for more sharing of power.
Myanmar's transition to democracy was long, a very long struggle, and incomplete is the really important aspect to it. So when Aung San Suu Kyi and the NLD took office in early 2016, they had control over certain ministries, but not all the ministries. They never had control of the military. The military was always there, always at our elbow, always second-guessing, always pushing back, and it just meant that it was a very strange sort of democracy.
My name is Yan. I'm 25 years old. I live in Parramatta, Sydney. In Myanmar, when I was young, I've got a lot of really good childhood memories with my friends. I was a street kid. We used to go out like every day. We're playing soccer in the street. I always wanted to be a music producer, DJ.
I needed to be anonymous today for this interview because of the transnational repression that the military, the Burmese military junta is capable of. Life before coup in Myanmar, the future was looking very bright. I was just starting my own youth organization, so I was surrounded by like-minded friends. We would say brothers and sisters because that's how we call each other in Burmese culture.
I love to say I'm from Myanmar with a proud feeling that I used to have a few years back. We have a diversity in terms of ethnicity and the landscape. There are many things that I find it very lovely.
In November 2020, Aung San Suu Kyi's government won the re-election. There were growing anxieties, and the military were really revving up a narrative that the election had been stolen. So the tension was rising all the way through to the 1st of February. We could feel it, and we were getting warnings that the military were going to come in.
There was some writing on the walls. Certainly the way that power was written into the Constitution was to give enormous power to the Myanmar military, which already had so much power. And thereafter, when there was some pushing back from those who wanted to see a different kind of power arrangement, the Myanmar military once again said, "We're fed up." And on February 1st, 2021, they enacted a coup.
The night that the coup happened, we were out in my friend's place, and I woke up early in the morning around 6 or 7, and I saw lots of people out in the street. They were like gossiping, talking. People are panicking.
The first thing we experienced on the first day of the coup, they shut down all the phone lines and internet. It brought a tremendous change in our life. It's like it was sunny and then it turns gloomy all of a sudden.
So when the military coup happened, the first thing is all my friends, they joined the civil disobedience movement.
We are organizing and supporting peaceful protests and humanitarian projects. I have to escape from the persecution of the military junta. They were tracking what we were doing. Our bank accounts were restricted and frozen, and then the military tried to track us down.
We went out in the street and we were protesting. My friends were like, we have to find another way. The police were following us. They started killing people, they started shooting, so. We can't just fight them back with bare hands.
All my friends are in prison, in the jungle, and going to abroad and having a safe place. So I have to help them to figure it out how they can relocate safely within Myanmar, and also the transition between that safe house to we call it the liberated area, is the ethnic control area, which is a lot safer than within the cities.
People don't realize the military has these kind of tech or the capacity that they could really control people and then change their lives in a very bad way.
The Myanmar military is kind of an animal unto itself. It feeds itself, it supports itself.
They're very, very unworldly and I think completely lack an understanding of how the world sees what they're doing. It's incredibly ill-equipped. It's an outfit with extremely poor morale, but which can be revved up into violent excess sporadically all over the place. And then there are sort of elite troops in it as well who are quite happy to do all sorts of atrocities. I thought that, look, things are really dangerous, they're moving in a really bad way, probably more than ever before. And of course there's not much you really can do except to think to get out.
One night, Aga didn't got home after dropping off his girlfriend. The curfew is at 12 a.m. and it's past 12, and his mom started to search in the street as well, and they called the police and looked for them, and we couldn't find him anywhere. We were really, really close friends. And in the morning, the hospital called his mom. We found a dead body in front of our hospital. The police were following us, so and I couldn't live in shadow anymore, and I thought that I couldn't stay in Myanmar anymore. Otherwise, I might get arrested anytime. So, and I ended up being here, coming to Australia.
I got a scholarship, really challenged, and I felt guilt a lot. I decided that, okay, I would take the study opportunity and use my knowledge to fight back. So that reason that I'm in Australia.
So the escape was it's really terrifying. We were trained how to answer questions if the immigration officer were to ask, why are you going to Thailand, or what are you doing? What is the purpose of the trip? When we got on the flight, we would still have these fear and feelings that the military might still stop the plane, and then when we were taxiing on the runway, everyone was like, yeah, we made it.
The resistance to Myanmar's military from outside Myanmar is extraordinary. They are incredibly energised, incredibly well organised and absolutely committed to the ending of this military regime. I have never seen such unity, such commitment, such purpose, such enthusiasm in the task.
Acts of resistance are ways both for the people of Myanmar to show the rest of the world what injustice is occurring within their country. It's a way to place pressure on the military. It may not always be possible for those that have left to be able to speak openly and publicly with their faces. There's guilt, and there's the wish to be home and the wish to not be home, and the concern for family. There's lots of ways to be an activist without having to have your face public.
There's a great logic to leaving the country, but people who do leave the country feel incredibly guilty. They may have left the country, but their family is back home. So anything that they do outside the country that becomes known could damage their family. So there's guilt over being an activist, speaking out, etc. But I think there's even just a broader guilt of leaving people behind to just cope with the daily realities of life in Myanmar.
I still have a guilt feeling I left the country, and however, when I start doing my course, it took me a while, and I have to do a lot of consultation and have a conversation with some close friends to figure it out myself. And they also do encourage me a lot that intellectual is another good weapon to fight back military. Since I arrived to Australia, trying to organize more events in the academic community, that's basically to get to know and aware about what's really happening in Myanmar. I've been volunteering on the human rights organizations that are particularly working on the Myanmar social justice issue as well.
Music for me is like a language, and it gives you lots of emotions. Sound is my weapon right now. My friends, they ask me to edit podcasts for them. It's really great to contribute to the revolution in terms of media. That's the thing I can help with. That is, music is my gun right now, like the sound, yeah.
I would organize events at the university where I'm studying. So we have this Burmese Myanmar Student Society, student organization. From there, we would advocate our cause, and we would raise awareness among our international students and friends, and even to the academics at the university. Because a lot of people lost access to education because of what happened. So we're trying to build our own schools that are not under the control of the military junta.
Writing has helped me a lot to put it out of what I want to do and what I've been thinking. So I feel it lighter. And I have written a sentence in Burmese. It says that I've been making continuous effort for the people in Myanmar. So I stick at mirror, and also I carry around that paper in my backpack. And so when I really miss them, and when I really miss our time, that sentence is keeping me awake every day.
Soccer really helps me with my day-to-day life because it really helps to remember good times that I had with my friends, and I'm lucky enough that I still have my close friends here, and we still share the same passion, and then we're all doing what we can to contribute back to what's happening back in our home country, and then we still play soccer together.
To deal with the hardships and emotional distress, I ran. And when you get tired, you don't think about anything else. So I ran. I run like 5 kilometers a day. When you like walk and you got like thoughts, when the thoughts like distract you, I push myself and run faster to keep myself like distracted from that. And I play piano sometimes to pour out my emotions into piano. I think the keys absorb my feelings, and I feel quite relief.
There is already this effort to focus on the future. The present looks a little bit dreary because the Myanmar military is still in power, but there's already this effort to look beyond that.
I'm very hopeful for Myanmar. I'm hopeful in a really practical way, and that is that the coup is very obviously a failure. The economy is almost completely collapsed. The military situation on the ground is absolutely dire for the military. They are losing. There will be horrors ahead because they will fight to the last breath. But the end game, to me, is absolutely assured. So I'm optimistic from that side.
What drives me to keep going is the hope that I had seen in the past decade. I think we will be more resilient than ever. We will be more resilient than ever. We will be ready for any challenges that is coming onto our way. I know it's a long way, or there will be years to come, but from here, I think a lot of us will learn a lot of lessons. I try to think positive.
I wanted to keep that momentum of what I've been doing on the revolutions to contribute and to be a better progress, a positive progress on the revolution in Myanmar.
I hope to see my friends and family again. The people faces with happiness in it, not struggling, not surviving. The hope for my future is to get a job relating sound or music, and to live my life with music or sound, doing what I love. And the hope for Myanmar is to push down the junta and to win the revolution.
Okay, that was very powerful, and thank you to the people in Sydney who made that film. I hope it gets shown far and wide. We're recording this meeting, which means that hopefully that this meeting will the film will be seen through the recording. And obviously, if there are people here who think that they could organise a showing in their local area, it's freely available. I don't think it belongs to anybody. It belongs to the struggle. So what I'd like to do now is work out why I'm not on the full screen. Am I? Okay. Yep. Okay. That should be coming up as the main. Anyway, that's okay. We'll now move on, and now I want to introduce both our guest speakers. Anna, do you want to speak first? So our first speaker tonight is Anna Takluam. She is a refugee from Myanmar. She lives here in Narm or Melbourne, and in the last couple of weeks has been admitted to the Victorian Multicultural Honour Roll for her work for multiculturalism and the community. So it's obviously a great honour. So I'll pass over to Anna now. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Hi, as David introduced, my name is, speak out, okay. Can you hear me? I'll try. My name is Anna. My surname is Takluam, but I've been known as Anna for the last 10 years, and I'll explain why. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to reflect on my refugee journey at this event alongside the screening of the documentary Voices of Resistance, organized by Refugee Action Collective Victoria. It is an honor to share my story in a space that centers true resilience and collective resistance. I believe it is critically important that we do not forget stories of survival and resilience and the voices of refugees like myself who have been affected by the Myanmar military for decades, for many, many decades. I am very grateful to the organizers and to everyone here today for standing in solidarity, supporting the fight for freedom and acknowledging the ongoing struggles of the people of Myanmar. This is especially important now as the regime has recently staged sham elections while continue to imprison Myanmar democratically elected leaders and political prisoners, including Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. So we must continue to condemn the inhumane acts committed by the military junta in every way we can. Events like this are powerful examples of how we do so, like by speaking true, amplifying silent voice, and standing together in solidarity. So I am a Chin woman. I lived in Melbourne, Western Melbourne, and I became an Australian citizen last year, and I currently work at a primary school in Melbourne as a multicultural education aide. And my my work allowed me to support students and teachers and families from diverse backgrounds, and it is a role I'm very proud of. So my refugee journey began in 2007. I was 13 years old. And at that age, being anywhere other than home was never something I imagined. But one summer morning at my grandparents' house changed everything. And I am originally from Chin State, Myanmar, and my family moved to Loigo, the Karenni state, when I was about 3 years old due to my parents' work. And in 2007, during the school summer break, my sister and I traveled to Matupi in Chin State to visit our grandparents. So I was almost 13 and my sister was about 15. And the reasons we visited our Chin State is to spend, some quality time with our grandparents, and then to explore the village where our family originally came from. And for the first few weeks, things were fine. Everything was normal. But then during our visit, that time, the military was building camps in Matupi town. And so they were like forcibly recruiting people to work as laborers and building camps and roads for their camps. And because of this, my sister and I were taken from our grandparents' home and forced to work for the military under the term they call volunteer. And for many days, I remember we did not have any choice. We had to work there without any safety or protection. And so I remember one night there was an adult in that camp. He said, "Oh, I think we should escape from this place because like people keep disappearing, and I think we should just escape to the other side." So at the time, I did not even know what the other side meant. So he was referring to crossing the border into India, so where we might be saved. And so I was very desperate to leave. I just wanted to leave the camp, and without hesitating, without saying goodbye to my grandparents or even my family. So me and my sister and other like 11 people, I think we left the camp. We escaped. And for around 8 days and 8 nights, so we were walking through the forest and mountains, because Chin State is a hill area. And then we reached to Indian Myanmar border called Mizoram State, and from there we traveled to New Delhi, and we registered ourselves under UNHCR as refugees. And so me and my sister, we lived in India as a refugees for 7 years. And yes, life in India as a refugees were really, really hard and very tough. But in 2014, Australian opened the door for us. So we could come here under humanitarian visa and rebuild our life with dignity and safety. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But very sadly, my refugee journey did not end there, because following the military coup on the 1st February 2021, my family openly rejected the regime by joining the civil disobedience movement and participating in anti-coup protests. As a result, both of my parents dismissed from their positions from the Lahore University. They are senior accountants in the university, and they were forcibly evicted from the government house, and their names were placed on formal removal list issued by the junta, and identifying them for punishment because of their opposition. Fearing the persecution, my family fled to Mae Sot, Thailand, in October 2022, and they are still there. And they're there without legal status or the right to work. For my brothers, the right to study. They face severe financial hardships and constant risk of revoltment. As you might aware that Thailand is not a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention. So the last year in 2024, after I got my citizenship, I went to Thailand to see my family after 17 years. So that was the first time I see them in person. So it was a moment of, deep joy. I was very happy to be reunited with my family, but it also broke my heart to see them in the situation where I once was, refugee. They're there without, any protection. And like my family, millions of lives, as you have seen in the documentary, that like around 3 million, I believe 3 million people, Myanmar people, affected by the Myanmar military. And we cannot allow this to happen, to continue happening. And that is why I'm here. I chose to speak. And, to call to end this dictatorship with our voices through our solidarity and with international communities and with like yourself. And together we must stand with the people of Myanmar and to condemn the sham elections and to boycott the junta and take action against their ongoing inhuman acts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. That's a really powerful story and told with so much dignity and feeling. Our second guest speaker this evening is Saulsman, and I'll turn the laptop properly. Ko is the campaign manager for the Myanmar Campaign Network. So please make Ko welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone's in the room and also online audience participants. Thank you for the Refugee Action Collective in Melbourne for inviting to speak today. And I begin by acknowledging traditional owner of the land, which on we meet, and Wurundjeri people, of the Kulin Nations and pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. My name is Saulsman from Myanmar Campaign Network and campaign coordinator. And the Myanmar Campaign Network is a large coalition of trade unions, international NGOs, human rights organizations, and faith-based groups and the Myanmar diaspora community here in Australia. We came together soon after the military coup in February 2021 to stand in solidarity with the people of Myanmar in their struggle for democracy and justice. MCN, Myanmar Campaign Network, operate under the umbrella of the Union Aid Board, AFIDA, the global justice organization of the Australian trade union movement. AFIDA provide vital support and coordination, drawing on the decades of experience working with the civil society across the region. And as one of MCN's key member organizations, AFIDA has a long-term program partnering with the grassroots groups on the Thailand and Burma border. And currently, they partnering organizations supporting projects that protect the migrant and refugee rights in Thailand. Deliver aid to internally displaced people inside Myanmar and then build the capacity of the local advocates, especially youth and women, to preserve civil society space and lay the foundation for the future accountable federal democracy in Myanmar. These direct the relationship with allow the MCN to connect with the frontline activists, amplify their voices, and bring their calls for change straight to Australia policymaker, unions, faith communities, and the wider public. Together, we lobby for stronger action, raise awareness, and mobilize support because the fight in Myanmar is not there only. It's a shared struggle of human rights and democracy that affect all of us. As you know, the current humanitarian crisis in Myanmar is a man-made humanitarian, the worst man-made humanitarian disaster in today, created, sustained by the military, the oppressive military junta. Myanmar is blessed with the, natural resources, in Southeast Asia, timber, jade, minerals, but, it's under the military junta, the Myanmar has become one of the poorest country in the region. So, as you know, since 2021, the situation deteriorated and dramatically. The junta's brutal crackdown on the peaceful protest sparked nationwide resistance, escalating into full-scale civil war. Today, nearly about 5 years on, the military control less than half of the country's land. While ethnic arms organizations and people defense forces continue to challenge the military rules. Just this month, military pushed to have so-called sham election starting end of this month, the first since the coup, but these are widely condemned as a sham, designed not to restore democracy, but to entrench military power. Major political parties like National League for Democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi's party, being dissolved. Thousands of political prisoners remained detained, and the voting will only happen in the junta control area, and that's going to be amid ongoing violence and fear and repressions. So I think as of late 2025, about 3.5 million people internally displaced inside Myanmar, hiding in the jungle, makeshift the area, and about nearly half of the population in the need the humanitarian assistance in Burma. And on top of that, over 1 million Rohingya refugees remain in stranded in the camp in Bangladesh. Various ethnic groups fled to Thailand, India, like Anna and her parents, adding to the regional refugee crisis. And I would say this is one of the biggest refugee factory in Southeast Asia. Myanmar became the most refugee. So what Australians can help? Australians had already shown their leadership in targeted sanction on junta leaders and entities, significant humanitarian funding, including the new multi-year the package up to about 370 million, the humanitarian, along with the Myanmar and the Rohingya refugee in Bangladesh. We welcome the support for the cross-border aid, health and protection services delivered through the trusted partner like AFIDA. But we need more. Australia can strengthen the expense sanction, especially on the aviation fuel and arms supply that fuel the junta's airstrikes. Increase humanitarian aid, ensuring that it's reached those in resistance held area without junta the interference. Advocate internationally for an arms embargo and referral of Myanmar to the International Criminal Court. Support civil society and diaspora voices here in Australia, amplifying calls for a genuine transition to the federal democracy. Reject any recognition of the junta sham election and continue working ASEAN efforts for the real dialogue. I think through network like MCN and the partner like AFIDA, Australia unions, faith groups, students, communities, and others are already making a difference. The fundraising, lobbying MPs, hosting events, and the building people-to-people solidarity. So the people of Myanmar have shown, as you see, the incredible resilience. They need us to match that with the sustained their action. So I will stop here, and then I'll welcome the any question you may have. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ko. And when we were thinking of speakers for this meeting, my thoughts certainly went to AFIDA because I get the AFIDA newsletter, and it's very clear that the overseas wing of the Australian Union movement has been providing solidarity to the resistance, the peaceful resistance, at least in Myanmar, for quite some time. So we're very pleased you joined us, and Anna as well. Now, I'm throw the meeting over at this point to questions, if people have questions. If you're online, please raise your little yellow electronic hand, and I'll call you. If you're in the room, just put a hand up, and I'll just need somebody to run the mic to you. And you don't have to speak very loudly, but you just speak into the mic so people online can hear what your question or your point of view is. So would anybody like to start us? Okay, Max, don't say anything until the mic's in front of you.
Given that there is so much of the land outside control of the military and presumably in more remote areas than in big cities, what are the prospects, and they are perhaps ethnically different groups, what are the prospects of uniting them in a coordinated way to put effectively military rather than just other forms of pressure to stress the military and so win ground and ultimately win control?
I might just take perhaps 3 questions or comments at a time and then ask our speakers to revert back to them. So is there anybody else in the room who would like to ask a question?
Hello, I'd like to ask Anna what sort of support you're getting in your daily life, but also how do you feel when you're watching that film? I was just thinking about, must have been quite hard for you.
Take Tom next, and then we'll come back to our speaker.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for joining us today and yeah, sharing your experiences. First, just a thought in terms of, Anna, what you were saying about your experiences of being 7 years in India. I mean, there's a myth in Australia which is that there's a queue for refugees to seek protection in countries, and we know that that's an absolute lie and that's an absolute farce. And your experiences show that, but also the experiences of so many other people who've sought asylum show that. I guess my question is around the question of sanctions and the question of what people here and in particular what the trade union movement here can do. We know that that's sanctions on Russia that the West has done has had a massive impact, and it's also a big demand in terms of Palestine. But in terms of Australia's relationship with Myanmar, what would be the impact of having those sanctions and having those the end of two-way arms trade? What would that affect, I guess, is my question.
I thank you for asking that questions. You mean support in India or here? Here. So when I first arrived, I was welcome. I arrived in Coffs Harbour in New South Wales, not in Melbourne. I arrived with my sister and her family. My sister got married in India and then had now she has 3 kids. And so we arrived first in Coffs Harbour, and then I decided to move to Melbourne after 10 days in Coffs Harbour because I knew some of my friends from India. They also got to Melbourne, so I moved to Melbourne. And when I first arrived, I was welcomed by AMES, the program, the Australian Migration Support Program. Yeah, they welcomed me, and then they provided a caseworker. So I could link with Centrelink, or to study English and stuff. So and I'm very grateful for that. Thinking of that. So when I first arrived, I had my community, Chin community already here, and then church community as well. And I felt very well supported. Because unlike in India where you're on your own, like so you have to on your daily basis you have to struggle, you have to work, and there's no one to support you. We only have like each other to support there. So but Australia make it really different. Yes. So I think other questions Go can answer.
All right, we'll pass over to Carl.
Thank you. Thanks very much. The first question is about how the ERO, ethnic resistant group in the in-ground situation looks. I think this is the in Myanmar, in Burmese history that never seen before, because Burma is already being in the civil war since soon after their independence. But with all the ethnic nationalities, they have their own autonomy and their own rights to fight against with the military. But this time after the 2021, every ethnic, the resistant groups, and also so many young people on February, the coup in March, but so hundreds of thousands of young people just escaped from this big city to learn the basic military training, especially Kachin state. Then they just about 3-4 months, then they went back inside to the guerrilla action type in the suburban area to the city. So they started, especially Chin State, for example, from the Matubi, just Mindat, I think just only handmade guns. They started revolution. So imagine with this is the over half of the country land take over by the ethnic resistant group and PDF, People Defense Forces, without any international country supplying weapons and any, that's a very big in history. We never seen that before. So ethnic nationalities, the resistance group, and also with the soon after the coup, all the lawmakers and also the elected parliamentarians, they formed the National Unity Government. So what they do is the National Unity Government act like a diplomatic, the approach to the international diplomatic relationship. They play that role, and then ethnic nationalities, EROs, PDF, they act in the defense area. So that's the solidarity that we never seen in the Burmese history. So the second thing is about the question on the sanction. Yes, I think it's a very good question because Australia is, with my knowledge, in Christopher Lamb, he's a former ambassador to Myanmar. He's here. The Australia always step back, not forefront with this. They recognize as a state, not a government. So they soon after the coup, these ASEAN countries, South Asian nation, they have an agreement, the ASEAN 5-point consensus. But so Australia is waiting for the ASEAN to lead and then step back. So pretty much Australian government wants the ASEAN to act on behalf, and then they will follow. That's my the way how I think. But they always we during the lobbying to the governments, and we always challenging. Look, this is not about the political diplomatic, old-fashioned way of diplomatic the action, but this is more about human rights. So Australia, should have a capability, and they can sanction a lot tougher. That's what we're lobbying for.
Thanks, Carl. We can take more questions and comment on the floor. Was that a hand I saw earlier, Kieran?
I'm not sure, you may not be able to answer this, but I'm just curious, the military, what is their justification to themselves, or what's their side? I mean, other than holding onto power because it's a group that has power and they want to hold on to power. Just, is it a right-wing thing? Is it left-wing? What is their justification, or whatever it can be, for the suffering that they're incurring?
I just guess I wanted to ask what you see the role of faith groups being in support for refugees, and also in terms of organization in resistance, or in also, solidarity from here to, people in Myanmar and other countries that are suffering under similar situations.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm quite ignorant in terms of Myanmar, but what I did hear a lot is about the Rohingya. You said I thought it's Rohingya. Can you talk a little bit about it, because it's to me it sounds a much bigger crisis than all the other little groups. What's the difference between them, and why is it so? What's the situation there? Why is it so cruel?
I'd like to make a comment at the end.
Thanks.
Not a problem.
Thanks very much.
Do you want to?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It looks. I can answer the first question. What about the military? What did they think of themselves, and how they, trying to get the legitimacy from the international community? Excuse me. Looks. This coup in the Myanmar military is the biggest failure for them. They know they are in the shooting in their foot themselves, but they've got strong support from China and strong support from Russia. And so India also provide with these some technology assistance to the military power. So that's the only the survival, that's escape they've got. They rely on a lot on China. So what they're going to do next is the reason what they're doing about the election is they wanted to announce, especially to the ASEAN countries, that here we've got the votes here. We are the legitimate government, even though more than half of the lands that they don't control it. So that's a very childish, really. But they're going to grip the power, of course, whatever way they can, because there's no escape. The population of the Burmese people are not going to stop. So this is going to create a lot more. The atrocity will occur in the for sure. So answer to your question. They think that they are the government, but Burmese people think that they are just crowded with this dictatorship, so they're against them. The second question about the Rohingya looks. I was one of the 1988 uprising students. I was in the front line fighting against the military, and then I migrated to Australia. Came to Australia as a refugee in 1995. So when I was in Burma, we know very little about the Rohingya ethnicity. We don't know much. They're only in the Rakhine states, the Bangladesh border area. But one of my uncle worked for the immigration. He's a higher officer, so work for it. So I've been visit to his, where Rohingya community live. They're very lovely people. They're beautiful ethnic at their nationality. But the reason is that because of the Democratic National League for Democracy was so powerful, the whole country was supported. So Aung San Suu Kyi was very well recognized by the international community. So Myanmar military manipulate the conflict, domestic violence with the local people, Rakhine people, and then some ethnic, the Rohingya community. That's how they started. Then they wanted to turn the reputation of the Aung San Suu Kyi from the international eyes. So they created just to have burning the houses in the Rohingya community. They were the military officer. So AA at the moment, Arakan, the army, they've got all the evidence document. So what they do is I don't know what's the word in English. You say, if you created the conflict fighting, they're easy to control, So they created among the, we have over 130 different nationalities and then, different, So they created divide and rules. Yeah. So they created that. So that's what they do. So Rohingya is, some people think that Aung San Suu Kyi, stand for the Myanmar military when they have a, criminal court, justice. And that's what the Myanmar military want. They want the Aung San Suu Kyi reputation to just gone in the international eyes. That's the thing. So, but in the other hand, Rohingya communities, about over 1 million in communities, in the refugee camp. But it's not only Rohingya community. Every human being in Burma suffering under this military rule. Simple. So I think another question is about the third question is faith community. I think there's a MICA and also the Baptist World Aid has a lot of action on lobbying with the government, the federal government, to have more humanitarian assistance. Because especially in Karenni state, there's so much the churches being burned down. There's nobody escape under this military rule. So this faith community, the Baptist World is being very active and strong lobbying in the Australian government. Thank you.
I just like to add, the support Myanmar people have from here, from Australia. It's more from diaspora community, here in Australia, we have like a Burmese diaspora who are supporting, back home, the family. Like myself, I would support my family in Thailand. And also, since 2021, I've been actively involved in fundraising for the resistance, like CDF, which is Chin Defense Force in Matupi. I have so many friends, and I lost so many of them as well. I call them comrades. And so yes, we have our say in Burmese. I don't know how to translate it. It's like we only have ourselves. So, sometimes we hope, support from international community, from UN and stuff, but at the end we have ourselves only. So we've been doing that for 5 years now. I'm from Chin, so for Chin refugees and IDPs, we relied the refugees and IDPs relying on churches in foreign country like Chin churches. So we contribute for our refugees and IDPs in Myanmar. And also, we do food fundraising here in Melbourne and also Sydney every week to support people in Myanmar. So I think, and also the like Ko said about the Baptist Union, Victoria Baptist Union also support people of Myanmar. So that's what I know. Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. Yep, certainly. I'll pass you.
Thank you very much. This is actually a mixture of questions and comments, if you don't mind. And Saulsman mentioned my name before. I'm Chris Lamb. Once upon a time, I was the Australian ambassador in what was then called Rangoon. Actually, its name changed while I was there and became Yangon. And since I came back to Australia after living all around the place, in 2010, I became the president of the Australia-Myanmar Institute when we formed that. And I'm still associated with the Institute, but I'm no longer its president. What I wanted to say was that it's wonderful that this film has been made and that it's being shown. I hope that it gets a better penetration into the public than one might expect. And this is not a comment on the MCN or AFED or all that, but I have the feeling that a lot of the work that's being done to promote the needs of the country is lost or diffused among the number of people who are saying things which are not different, but not exactly the same. It's not a well-coordinated address of these issues. And the Refugee Action Collective, I confess, I hadn't heard of it until this came on, and that's part of the story. The way that we have publicized Myanmar isn't good, and the Australian Myanmar Institute is not a good example of anything that makes things better. The whole story about Myanmar is one of separate conversations, and that unfortunately is continued. After the military takeover, there was a lot of consolidation of positions because of opposition to what the military had done and the determination to continue building democracy, which had happened after the elections. It started to happen after the elections in 2010, and then picked up speed when Aung San Suu Kyi became the leader. But then it was cut away. But people felt in 2021, we've got to go back to the path to democracy. It's very hard to see that now coming. The election's coming up, as you said, the sham election. The Australian government said are rather weak, but at least it's made a statement about these elections. We learned a couple of days ago that in order to make sure the elections are successful, the military in the Kachin state, and I think Chin as well, has decided to ban Christmas. Is that right, Anna? And they're going to ban Christmas because Christmas is on the 25th of December, as you know. The election starts on the 28th. You couldn't possibly have people getting out and having meetings and doing things and being together in the lead up to the election. So Christmas is going to have to be advanced or omitted this year, come another time. And that's the attitude of the military to the people in the country all the time. So the question that I have, which is really not one that this panel can answer, but which we all ought to think about, is what can we as concerned people in the community do? And what can MCN do? What can AFEDA do I think what we have to do is to try to rebuild an interest in the situation in Myanmar in the parliament. In the time of the Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison government, when the Labour Party was in opposition, it was easier to build a parliamentary coalition which prioritised Myanmar. That's fallen away since the Labour Party came into government because many of the activists moved into ministerial positions and they weren't able to do the activist work. I think if everybody here understood that they should write to their member of parliament to emphasise something or other with a connection to Myanmar, and it would be easy to do that around the elections and the banning of Christmas, for example, that would appeal to people here. But we've got to try and restore that understanding. We're lucky to have, is he still here? Kaka, are you here still? You are here. Good. He's one of the most distinguished Myanmar lawyers in Sydney with a large refugee caseload. And he, if he wanted to say something about what he's doing and what the caseload is, that would be interesting, because I fear that as the Australian government has continuously cut back essentially on the programs that we're talking about here, it's going to be very difficult for people from Myanmar to be able to assert the priority of their case as time goes along. But thank you for being here, and congratulations, Anna, on the Multicultural Award. That's really good.
First of all, thank you everyone for your interest in coming to this event. We have been trying to show this video already 2 times in Sydney. Okay. We have shown this documentary film for twice in Sydney, and there's one more event happening in Canberra in February, so that everybody can understand more about what's happening in Myanmar. And then I really wish everybody in this room to spread what is about Myanmar to your friends and to your network and to your local politicians and everybody, because we really need Burmese situation to be in our backdoor, in our news. We just want everybody to have this in your conversation, because a lot is happening over there without really big exposure in the media. So thank you all for coming today, first of all. And the second one is the current refugee intake, because I'm an immigration and refugee lawyer. So sorry, I have to talk about immigration intake from Australian government is very, very limited. It's 20,000 for every year for the whole refugee around the world, in the camp, outside the camp, displaced people and everyone. So for example, in Anna's situation, her parents and family, they are in Thailand and not in the refugee camp. So they are considered to be a displaced people in Thailand. And they are not getting the same treatment and safety in the country itself. They have to be very worried about being sent back to the country, as well as the Australian government intake is also very small. So realistically, the applications will take a number of years, right? So, and these people do not deserve to be treated this way. And actually, if they come to Australia, there are a lot more to contribute to the society with their skills, especially senior accountant and her brothers being engineers and so on. So there are a lot of things. It's not just Anna's case, but everybody from Myanmar, very talented, very skilled. So yeah, we just have ourselves and everybody in this room. If you can help support us by talking to the MPs and stuff, we have to just keep throwing the stones so that everybody can, we hit somewhere, you know. So yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. It's okay. No, I mean, first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is to congratulate the great fight, or rather, fight that the guerrilla movement is doing in Myanmar. Reminds me of the Cuban Revolution much more. You, comrade, said that some of the nations that are responsible for this atrocity in Myanmar was China, Russia, and India.
We'll take that and then we'll come back to the speakers to respond to questions and to make their final comments. So Kieran and then Tom.
Yeah, I guess mine's sort of a request. If the suggestion has been made that we write to our MPs and try and put some pressure on the government that way, if we could get perhaps a list of key points that we should raise in such communications, and then we as RAC can put that out to our membership and suggest that people draft their emails around this, not just a form email, but we know of the issue, but we don't know the key points that we need to be putting pressure onto the government. So if we could get that, then we could put that out with a video and encourage people to respond in that way.
Yeah, just an idea. I mean, following on from that, something that we've done in the past when we've had these kinds of, or we've had educational kind of meetings, is we've released statements that we've circulated so that the people who follow Refugee Action Collective can be more informed. So obviously this is our last form, something that we can look to do and can look to on and share a bit of a statement that talks about the situation and talks about what some of the agreed upon demands are in terms of what people can do, how people can support the struggle.
Oh, just a really quick one. Yeah, I mean, thanks so much. I think this is this is a really interesting forum. I got so much out of this that I didn't know. So thank you so much. And yeah, I just think in terms of it's important, of course, yes, we should write to our MPs, but I think in terms of building the movement against racism and welcoming refugees is really, really important out on the streets. I think that's where we've seen such a big impact. We had our, exhibition a few weeks ago, 25 years of refugee resistance. And it just showed over the years, whether Liberal, Labor, actually those protests and when people have really come out and they've organized in workplaces, teachers walking out for refugees and that kind of thing has really helped change that policy. Because I agree. I can't remember your name, sorry, with what the comrade said before, actually no refugee should be, forced to be stuck, in somewhere like Thailand or Indonesia. It's actual cruelty. It's racist. There's no need. It costs the government literally nothing to bring people in and welcome them and make them part of the community. And it makes Australia a much better place to be when we're all much more inclusive. So yeah, I just think that's so important for us in coming into 2026 that we keep building RAC and we keep finding ways to kind of connect these struggles together, like the struggle with Myanmar, with the struggle for refugees rights here and for permanent visas, for making sure no refugees are deported back to danger as well, and fighting those draconian deportation laws I think are so important going into the new year, into next year as well.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'll now pass back to our speakers to answer questions and also make any final remarks. Who would like to go?
Quickly about the gentleman at the back. Look, Myanmar issue is not about with the it's not about political game. That's a Myanmar issue. It's a human rights issue. So when I was talking about the China, other countries' influence to the junta, China is the biggest investor in Burma, biggest. Okay, so they just they play the both side with the military and also the EROs, ethnic resistant group as well. So that's how they play to gain their economic benefit. So that's why I'm saying this with the China's involvement. Russia involvement is the same thing because of the regional issue, South China Seas. But I'm not going into that deep, that conversation. We won't be finished tonight. But what I wanted to say is Burmese peoples are with the handmade guns to achieve this over half of the country land, from the dictatorship. That's what we look at, how, this resilience that they're looking for. What Anna said before, we only have us. Nobody. No one's helping us. But Burmese people, whatever they have, handmade gun with the rock, whatever they just defend themselves. So that's I wanted to answer to you that one shortly. The other one is key points to raise the awareness for the Australia politicians and local MPs and so on. I think Myanmar Campaign Network, MCN, has a regular monthly meeting. So you're more than welcome to the joint. I will leave all my detail. Dave have got my detail as well. So every last Thursday of the month, we have a regular meeting. Please share and then just we have many different other organizations, NGOs discuss about how we can lobby to the Australian government. The share information, same thing. We produce any information through with the MCN Google group. So we share all the information, so you will get that regular update. Another thing is about the refugee issue. Yes, there's every human being refugee is simply they're not just looking for something better, but they are the one who cannot live in their own country freely. They can't practice their own religion or their own right. So that's one that they resistant, against this any dictator or block them, and that's why they become a refugee. So, for example, who came to Australia, including myself as a refugee, one of the ethnic nationality Karen community in the new town. Before, last 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was a very quiet town. Now they produce, one of these about 60 to 80 million per annum economic. So refugee can build this country, refugee can make a difference, So I think I would like to encourage all our comrades here to ask your local MPs or the policy makers to increase the refugee intake. That's another thing that you can raise. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ko. I'll now pass over to Anna.
I am very grateful, to be able to talk about my refugee journey and also about Myanmar, what's happening in there, because at my work, whenever I go new places, if they ask me where I'm from, and when I say I'm from Burma or Myanmar, they do not know where that is, let alone what's happening in Myanmar. They do not know where what country that is. So I really appreciate organizing this kind of event where we can talk about Myanmar, and there are so many refugees, Myanmar refugees in India, Malaysia, and Thailand. So we, like Unai said, that we try to contribute to the society. We bring values to the Australian society, like wherever we are, because in our own country we are treated very we've been oppressed for so many years, and when we get the opportunity, when we are given a chance to rebuild our life, we hope for we bring our best. So we try to contribute to the society. So I would like to encourage everyone here, to spread, to talk about Myanmar, and that will be really good. I mean, I'll be very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Ko. In a moment, I'll ask you to thank both our speakers again, but I should just say about the Refugee Action Collective, in case there are people in the audience who don't know about us, that we're a young organization. We've been going for 25 years. We campaign for the rights of all refugees. We certainly don't play favorites between different nationalities or ethnicities. Our main target is the Australian government, because we have had decades of horrendous policies aimed at preventing refugees fleeing to Australia or punishing refugees for fleeing to Australia, especially those who have come by boat. Our public position is that we are for a refugee intake of 50,000, and I think many of us would regard that as fairly conservative, but that's the figure that we put out there on our publicity material. We put on forums to inform ourselves and others. We had a speak out in the Burke Street Mall last week to mark International Human Rights Day. We stage vigils and we stage rallies and public forums. And next year we will come back. Our first meeting of the year, we meet every week, barring public holidays, on a Monday in this room. And the first meeting of the year will be the 12th of January, Monday, the 12th of January. Everybody is welcome, either in person or online. We will be planning what we can do to assist refugees fighting back, and it makes a difference. Jasmine made the point before about resistance and that it works. At the moment, thousands of mostly Sri Lankan Tamils and Iranians who have been on bridging visas for 12 or 13 years are getting permanency. And they're getting permanency because they took the campaign onto the streets last year. They spent 100 days on the pavement outside MPs' offices and the Border Force office. People like ourselves organised solidarity, organised food, but also to organise publicity and rallies. And the Labor government didn't immediately blink, but very quietly, they have actually given way to the righteous demands of those refugees, and now thousands of them have permanent status and are on a very a quick process towards becoming citizens. These are people who have been made to suffer by the Australian government, both under Coalition and Labor, for 13 years, and their resistance and our solidarity together has made a difference. So we'll be organising for that, but we'll also be organising more generally against the rise of racism and the far right. The March for Australia, the National Socialist Network, the rise of the One Nation vote in the opinion polls, and I think what is going to be an orgy of reaction following the terrible events on Bondi Beach yesterday. We will be organising against that too, and we have plans for a major public forum in February to start off the political year on the right foot. So I would encourage anybody here to get involved with RAC, as much or as little as you're able to contribute. The very simple thing is, if you're not already on our mailing list, over on the table to my left, to your right, there's a mailing list. You can put yourself down while you're checking out the T-shirts and the rest of the merch. But enough about RAC. I would like everybody, please, to give Anna and co a really warm thank you. We've learned a great deal. We value your contribution, and you can be rest assured you have new friends in the struggle ahead. Thank you very much.